Hey folks, it's me, Len Testa, and I am here with Mr. Shull and Mr. Hill, and we're here together on May 1st, 2024 to celebrate an auspicious day in Disney theme park history. It's the opening of the park that I still refer to as MGM, that is Disney's Hollywood Studios. And a new park opening is a moment worth celebrating.
There'll be cake, right? I was told there'd be cake.
In a minute, Jim. You have to get your work done before the cake. All right. So here at Unpacked, we want to do something special to commemorate this auspicious occasion. Just in case you're wondering, the traditional gift for a 35th anniversary is coral. Unfortunately, due to some misunderstanding between Mr. Hill and the Australian government and the Great Barrier Reef, which apparently has its own jurisdiction, we can't do that, and we have to do this instead. So sharing some holiday snap, this is me about to go somewhere that I'm not supposed to go, outside of the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular.
Ooh, let me see here. Now, the photograph that you're referring to is actually taken December of last year, Len. That's when you, me, and Mr. Hill we were all down at Walt Disney World shooting footage and doing research for an episode of Disney Unpacked and other episodes that'll be dropping in the second and even third season. That one, though, drops this month, which is May 2024. And in fact, it celebrates the history of stunt shows in all of the Disney theme parks.
Wait, that's coming up this month? Really? What an amazing coincidence. And not at all a crass and completely planned out advanced bit of promotion.
I know, I'm shocked. You hear shocked. I'm going to round up the usual suspects and give them a good talking to.
All right.
But anyway, the truth is, we were all standing out there. And when we stood there that day, I couldn't help but notice how much things had changed since I first stood in that same spot way back in 1988, which is before Disney-MGM opened to guests in 1989. Like, for example, how you used to be able to stand there in front of Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular and see the entire billboard that Drew Struzan painted for the park. I mean, Drew is the artist who did all the posters for Raiders of the Lost Ark and Indiana Jones. If you've seen an indie movie, you've looked at his work. But anyway, thanks today to the horticulture department there in the park, well, those trees and those plants have all grown up. And so now when you see Dr. Jones, you don't know if he's wearing pants or not.
Please tell me he's wearing pants.
Okay. Wait a minute. I definitely recall that Indy was wearing pants when I walked into that arena for the press conference where George Lucas and Steven Spielberg promised that they'd eventually incorporate elements from The Last Crusade, the Indiana Jones movie that was still 4 weeks out from arriving in theaters, into the Disney-MGM Epic Stunt Spectacular at some point in the future.
Oh, you were there for the opening?
Yeah, and you never forget that new theme park smell. Get fresh paint and newly opened plastic things.
Oh, yeah. We don't want to talk about the plastic things. But, this theme park smell you experienced and the one I experienced, they were two very, very different things. Because, you see when you build a new theme park in Florida, we know what's in Florida. The smell of Florida is unlike anything you can ever get out of your nasal cavities. I mean, it's basically the smell of anything that's ever died on planet Earth that's surrounding you. It is not a pleasant smell.
I mean, not for nothing, but it's probably so much biological material embedded in dirt that you're like, in a million years, this will be oil.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people, I had team members on a project stand next to me on a dump saying, don't light a match around this.
Oh, no, the last thing we do.
Yeah, the power methane, guys. It's the power methane.
How is that not a tagline for some back part of the old Backlot tour? That should have been it. All right. But Jim Shull, these are amazing photos. When were they taken?
Oh, let's see. I took these all in December of 1988, which is about 6 months out from the official opening of Disney-MGM Studios. For example, here's one. Up on the hillside in the center of this photograph is the entrance arch for the Epic Stunt Spectacular. I mean, the taller of the two pieces is the column that will eventually hold up the Indiana Jones billboard, that one we were just talking about a moment ago.
The thing that I really like about this photo, first of all, it looks like it's Hiroshima after the bomb, except for the giant green dinosaur that's sitting in the middle of it. And
I
she's
know.
she's complete. She's painted. She's done. She's got the sign. She's ready to go, right?
Yeah, and she's ready to go because you got to get something out the gate fast and first because there's a project team and there's a team that works on theme paint and they have to work on Gertie. There's a team that works on theme plaster and they also work on Gertie, but they also have to work on Hollywood Boulevard and Epic Stunt Spectacular and you see the drift. So as soon as Gertie was ready to go and hop on, they hopped. They jumped on it. They finished it, and so that photograph where everything else is dirt, you have that pristine, ready to, go Gertie the dinosaur.
Okay. And so the people who worked on Gertie, they went off to do some other part of the park after that, because I'm assuming there's a ton of plaster work to be done. But that's different than like rock work, right? Because that's another different, very specific skill.
Well, you can get into sharp arguments at WDI between is it rock work or theme plaster, and it goes back and forth depending on what if it's Wednesday and what people had to eat. But anyway, long story short, you have a set of highly technically skilled individuals, and they are highly prized within WDI for all projects. And so at that point, what you do in the process of production is you have you build Gertie, you build all the structural steel, then you put in the plaster, and then you wait till the plaster dries, and then you have the theme painters come in and they give the dinosaur her distinctive green skin, and then they have detailed work, they have agings and drop shadows and yada yada yada. But as soon as they were done, that team of specialists, well, again, they all had to move literally down the street to work on Hollywood Boulevard. So they needed to get Gertie done, and that's why when we look at these photographs and everything else is Hiroshima, Gertie is prime and pristine.
Well, now speaking of early work on the site, I mean, where are you guys at this point in the project when it comes to grading the land? Because I can't help but notice that fire hydrant that's sticking up out of the hillside like 3 feet off the ground.
Also, Jim Hill, hillside. There's a large mound of dirt where Echo Lake is right now.
Yeah, you got to hold your dirt somewhere. But, anyway, long story short, again, it's you're talking about the process, guys. And that's part of the process, which is, the rough grade for the site has already been done. When they moved onto the site to build, first you have to do a land removal. You have to go in and, make sure that there's Mr. Gator has to be sent to another place and then get rid of the trees and get rid of the swamp and then do what's called rough grade. Now, what you're looking at in the image isn't the final grade. And again, it's not final grade because you've got that fire hydrant that's completely distinctly painted. It's fire hydrant red, and it's just floating above what will be the finished grade when they get around to it. Now, when that's all done, horticulture department, they'll come in with their trucks and they'll lay down all the loam and they'll plant all the trees and they'll plant all those shrubs that will then hide eventually one day today Indiana Jones' pants. But, let's stop for a moment, though, and look at another image. But it's going to be from a very different angle.
Okay, so this is still the Indiana Jones arena, right? Dead center, sort of like back of the image. But where are you when you're taking this photo?
Well, I'd climbed up a ladder and I'm standing there on the roof of the Monster Sound Show. Oh. And this is a picture. Oh, there's a fan in the house. Great.
Love
Monster
that show.
Sound Show. Yeah, it's a lot to love. I mean, it's a great, dearly departed, long missed show. Anyway, long story short, you can see that this is a picture taken from the rooftop in Florida because you can see the lightning rods. I mean, they give it away. Right there in the photograph, the 6 o'clock position. I'm standing right next to a lightning rod, guys. But again, I swear, I'm a Californian. We don't have lightning here.
This is true. But though, if we're talking about positions of the clock, I'm actually more interested in what's over in the 9 o'clock position. That looks like a lot of trailers.
Well, they are trailers, but there are only a few of the trailers that would have eventually make up all of the construction camp that was going to be needed to build this new park. I mean, every aspect of this project, well, they had their own field office and they were usually located right next to their responsibility. So what you're looking at is a construction camp for the area around Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular. Now, what's interesting about that, and I know from experience, is when you bring the project trailers to the site, the work site, they're leveled. They're jacked up, and they call them leveled. Now, there's level and there's level-ish. There's camp level. And I know this because I learned the hard way many, many times that, when I put something round on my desk, I'd turn my back and turn around, and that thing was on the floor. Like coffee, tea, Diet Coke on the floor. Lesson learned, guys. Anyway, we were talking about the theme plasterwork that was done on Gertie. So moving on now to the 5 o'clock position in the same photograph, you can see an industrial grade plaster mixer there on the work site. So with that, I mean, again, a fan of industrial grade plaster mixers, I see.
Oh, it is. So I've actually worked with one of these machines in a different life. It's a long story. All right, but Jim Shull, you're still up on the roof of the Monster Sound Show on this photo. Although I noticed some storm clouds over there by what is now the Prime Time Café. Might be a good time to either get off that roof or have a really good heart-to-heart with Jesus.
Len, I was a Southern Californian, and again, you have a lesson learned very quickly. At 3 o'clock every afternoon, there'd be the tropical storms would sweep across Central Florida. And like all Californians, where we live in what used to be a dry desert, I would run outside to see that wonderful rain.
Running outside to watch the rain. Yeah. What could possibly go wrong there?
Going sideways. And then I'd notice, ooh, there's lightning. This is not a good thing. So I'd run back inside. And from that, I learned an important lesson. When I saw the lightning start to form off to the right of the Monster Sound Show of the roof that I was standing on, I went down that ladder a lot faster than I went up.
All right, but that definitely is the Prime Time Cafe in the background, right? I'm oriented correctly here, Jim?
Yeah, your eyes are sharp as always. But what's special about the Prime Time Cafe, at least to me, was for me it was the very first time that mid-century modern architecture entered the design vocabulary in any Disney park. I mean, in a really big way. There's some little subtle nods here and there, but not on this scale. I mean, this was interesting because it deployed an architectural style that had never been seen before in a major way in any Disney theme park. Now, again, it's classic Hollywood, but it was new and different, and it made it unique.
Okay, so Shull, when MGM Studios opened, it was designed to be the Hollywood of history, and it never was, right? So 30s, 40s. I think we all understand mid-century modern to begin like late 40s and peaking in 15, 60s. So that's all contemporaneous, right? There's definitely a period where that all existed together.
Yeah, you can find examples of it in California. And again, like all Disney theme parks, you have a mashup of styles. So maybe they didn't exist quite that tight, but they did exist. And so that's an artistic license that people were more than happy to cash in.
Okay. Well, now to circle back to what Len referred to just a moment ago, that very large mound of dirt in the middle of Echo Lake. I found a story in the December 1989 issue of WDI. That's the old in-house magazine that Disney used to publish for Imagineers.
Ooh, I bet you made a lot of people on eBay rich when you got those.
Yeah, that actually, what's so funny is there's a line on the cover of the back of one of the issues that literally says, free to Imagineers, big bucks to Disney collectors. And you had to pay for these.
Yeah. Well, they knew what they were talking about.
All right, good to know. All right, so Jim Hill, what is so significant about this big pile of Disney dirt? I'm sure there's a National Enquirer joke in here somewhere, but I haven't thought of it yet. Go ahead.
This story comes from Dave Yaar, who was a project manager on Disney-MGM Studios. And looking back on the construction phase of the theme park, Yaar recalled at one time, the highest hill in Florida was at Disney-MGM. Whenever we dug a hole somewhere, I insisted that we keep every shovel full of dirt because I knew we would need it sooner or later. We put it all on a huge mound in the middle of Echo Lake, and the guys on the project then started to refer to that mound as Mount Yaar. So, Jim Shull, is that true?
Well, it's a good story. What can I say? But you saw that earlier photograph. Remember the one with the hot fire hydrant floating in space and 3 feet off the ground? The reality was that was a dirt bank, and that's what Yaar was talking about. It was a place to store the dirt, and conveniently, once they did the concrete retaining walls for Echo Lake, that dirt, any dirt dumped in there, wasn't going to go anywhere, and so it became a savings account that when they get a call and say, hey, we need dirt for this planter. Well, I can set you up with some. Do you want one scoop or two? So,
Cool.
it's playing ahead.
Okay.
All right. There's still a National Enquirer joke in here somewhere. I haven't figured it out yet. Go ahead.
All right. Well, Len ponders his jokes. I'll want to point out the retaining wall at the very, very center of this image. That was probably one of the very first things that was installed at the work site. Again, because of the project scheduling procedure, you had to make those walls that became the retaining portion, the retaining basin for Echo Lake. You had to do those soon. And speaking of Echo Lake, let's move on to the next image, please. Thank you very much. In the middle of this image, the gray structure in the distance is, or rather was, Min and Bill's Dockside Diner.
So Jim Shull, these days, I think they dropped the Min and Bills. It's just Dockside Diner. But now that I say that, was there a backstory on who Min and Bill were?
Okay.
It's true. There's actually a backstory.
There is.
I ad-libbed something correctly. Somebody write this down. Go ahead.
Yeah, right.
Mark the day.
Min and Bill, as it turns out, was an Academy Award-winning comedy that MGM released back in 1930. In fact, Mary Dressler, she received that year's Oscar for Best Actress for her performance in this comedy drama.
So any interesting stories about Dockside Diner, Joel?
Well, it was a diner, and its purpose was in the name, Len. I mean, it was a diner, and diners are where you get food. But, the guests wandering up to get their churro, didn't understand it. They didn't read the brief. So they'd walk up and they'd look at this thing that looked like a boat, smelled like a boat, acted like a boat. And so they'd go and ask a cast member, how do I get up there on that upper deck in order to take beautiful palatial photographs, panoramic photographs of all of Disney-MGM studios? To which the guy at the cash register would turn to them and say, it may look like a boat, it may smell like a boat, but it is not a boat. Here's your churro. Have a nice day.
It sounds like a lot of people went away unhappy, but I gotta say, it's a testament sort of to Disney design that if you make it look like a boat and you make it look like you can walk up there, people are gonna want to walk up there, right? So, but anyway, going back to this photo, Jim, where were you when you were taking this photo? Because Indiana Jones is still way off in the distance there.
Well, let's see. Let me see. That photo is the one I was standing in the left nostril of Mickey's nose.
I'm going to need some explanation.
I forgot about the giant Mickey face.
That's right. I forgot about this. Yeah, go ahead. Good.
Yeah, I mean, how could guys, you love the studio. You say you love the studio, but how could you forget Mickey's face and his nose? I mean, it was a big part of it. The fact is that Echo Lake was placed exactly where it was at MGM because it formed one ear of one side of giant Mickey's face that stretched from the forecourt of the Chinese Theater all the way to the top of Hollywood Boulevard. In fact, at one time, the rooftop of the Brown Derby restaurant was painted black in an oval to form the other ear.
Okay. I mean, it looks great, and you can definitely see it here in the photos, but this isn't still true today, is it? It didn't last.
No. Sadly, no, it is not. Because the year 2001, like so many aging celebrities, well, Mickey got some tuck work done. He had a nose job. He had a little bit of, he's a Southern California mouse. So he got a little fractal laser work, and he was good to go. But he lost the nose.
I think what Mr. Shull means to say here is out ahead of the building of that 122-foot tall sorcerer's hat that stood at the end of Hollywood Boulevard and then served as the icon of that year-long 100th anniversary of Walt Disney's birthday. The Imagineers had the planter which formed Mickey's nose ripped out.
All right. Well, regardless of that, eventually, when the hat was torn down, much rejoicing occurred in the land, and that hat came down in 2015. But we didn't get Mickey's nose back.
And there was much rejoicing, especially among all us Disney-MGM fans who missed being able to see the Chinese theater at the end of Hollywood Boulevard, looking very much like the castle at the end of Main Street, USA.
So, if we're going to talk about the Chinese theater, there are those today uh, who say that where you could once see giant Mickey's face stretching from the forecourt of the structure, the face of another animated Disney character is now there. I mean, I offer this up as evidence, Exhibit A. Tell me, guys, what do you see?
Oh, this is like a Rorschach test for theme park fans. I mean, it kind of, if you look at it sort of at an angle, at a 45-degree angle, where 2 o'clock on the clock face is supposed to be noon, it kind of looks like Wall-E with the building thing right there, and then these little treads at the bottom with the planters and stuff.
Ooh, how you squint your eyes a lot better than I do. There's no way in the world I'd believe that. But, I think it's actually just a couple of planners, Len. There's nobody there.
All right, first question. Did you get this from His Eminence Bio Reconstruct?
No, it's actually from Google Earth.
Same thing.
Okay.
All right.
More or less. Yeah. But on the other hand, if we can now pivot for a moment back to the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular, remember how Mr. Hill mentioned a long time ago at the press conference for this stunt show that he attended with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, and how they mentioned that they eventually wanted to incorporate elements of their yet to be released Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade film into this new Disney-MGM stunt show attraction. Remember that?
Yeah, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. I vaguely remember it from this point. Yeah.
Well, eventually, guys, Lucas and Spielberg eventually made good on that promise because they provided the park with 1 tank, 2 trucks, and 2 cars that have been used for the movie Last Crusade. And as you can see in this very hyper detailed drawing, came from the extremely talented Imagineer Tim Kirk, those props were then placed in the post-show area of the Epic Stunt Show.
Yeah, now that's the tank from the scene in Last Crusade where Indy was on horseback and trying to rescue his dad, who was held captive by the Nazis inside the tank. And I don't recognize the truck, but it's been a while since I last saw Last Crusade. And these things do look appropriate for the period of the film.
Well, yeah, that was the whole point of placing these props in the post-show area of the Indy Stunt Show. I mean, remember, when it first opened, there was no merchandise store. It didn't exist. And at the same time, you wanted to continue to entertain people. They're all jacked up because they just seen Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Show. So they would stop as they exited the arena, slow down, take their photo, and read the little plaques saying where those vehicles came from. And then they would notice, well, first the merchandising cart, and just a few months after the stunt show opened, a brand new retail outlet, which opened just a few steps away.
And so Jim Shull, I remember seeing the tank and the vehicles at the show exit, like right before the pandemic, or in the couple years before that. But they weren't there for opening day. This wasn't an opening day thing.
No, they weren't, because like a lot of things at MGM Studios, I mean, they built it, they opened it, and then they started rebuilding it. They had a cart originally outside the entrance of the stunt show, and it did sell Disney and Indy merch, but Disney found that they had a bigger appetite very, very quickly. So, they started green lighting the design and build of a new store there at the exit of the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular. But okay, and this was built after the fact.
Okay. And so after the stunt show opened.
Yeah, what's really cool about the Indiana Jones Adventure Outpost was, well, when you look at one side of this shop, the one that faces toward the Prime Time Café, that front of the shop was still, mid-century modern in design. But if you just go around the corner of that same shop, you find it suddenly is now as old Morocco, which, lent more into the design aesthetic of the Epic Stunt Spectacular. So one building, two sides, Imagineering at work.
And what was especially cool about this was that given the way the props were staged, and even horticulture got in on this, Len, you were basically aimed straight into the shop, or you could then go buy your overpriced scuffed leather jacket or your battered brown fedora. So
perfect for the summer that MGM opened in Florida.
Hey guys, remind me to tell you about the team of cast members in the backstage who are scuffing jackets to order.
They're dragging them behind the tanks to make money.
There we go. There we go.
Well, what a super fun way to commemorate the 35th anniversary of the opening of Disney's Hollywood Studios by looking back at the theme park while it was still under construction. And thank you very much, Jim Shull, for taking all of these photos. I noticed in one of these photos, we can actually see your shadow taking the photo.
Yeah, like all good amateur photographers, I either have my thumb or my shadow in my very best photographs. But anyway, it was great bringing the old scrapbooks out to share with you today.
And we enjoyed them. By the way, folks, if you want to learn even more about the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular or stunt shows at the Disney theme parks in general, we've got a whole slew of shows about to debut over on Patreon as part of our Disney Unpacked project.
And the first one of those drops Sunday, May 5th, right?
No, right around the corner. It's coming.
All right, that's enough gratuitous self-promotion for one day. On behalf of Mr. Shull and Mr. Hill, thanks for watching this special edition of Disney Unpacked. And to the dedicated cast members who make magic at Hollywood Studios every single day, we all hope that you have a great 35th anniversary as well. See you on the next show.